Hello and welcome to Foreign Desk on Benue Television. I am Susan Ayo. The headlines. Global Hunger Monitor says over 750,000 people in Sudan at risk of starvation. Kenya police fire tear gas at protesters after Hurutu scrapped tax hikes. Plus, Russia suffers setback as Ukraine braces for tough months on battlefield. Now the news in details. A global hunger monitor has said that there is risk of famine in 14 areas across Sudan if the conflict between military factions escalates, noting that it faces the worst level of acute food insecurity ever recorded in the country. In its assessment published on Thursday, the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification (IPC) said after more than a year of war, some 755,000 people are facing disaster, the most severe level of extreme hunger, while 8.5 million people, or 18% of the population, grapple with food shortages that could result in acute malnutrition and death. The conflict started in April 2023 between the Sudanese Armed Forces under Army Chief Abdel Fattah and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, led by his former deputy Muhammad Hamda Dangalo. The United Nations Hunger Monitoring System said an increase in fighting would further restrict aid access to threaten areas, warning of the realistic chance of famine in several areas including parts of Darfur, Khartoum, Kordofan and Gazira states. The ICPC said approximately 25.6 million people are likely to experience high level of acute food insecurity between June and September. Police in Kenya fired tear gas at small groups of demonstrators in the capital Nairobi on Thursday as William Ruto agreed to scrap contentious tax hikes and called for dialogue following deadly protests. The protest this month, led largely by young Gen Z Kenyans, caught the authorities off guard as Ruto's government recalled between taking a tough line on the protests and issuing appeals for dialogue with the demonstrators. Dozens of protesters made their way to Nairobi's central business district on Thursday, with soldiers deployed and police in anti-riot gear blocking access along roads leading to state. Reports said that officers were firing tear gas at dozens of protesters in a small group and arresting 3 people. Many shops remained closed as traders worried about further unrest. Protesters also relied on the port city of Mombasa and the opposition stronghold of Kisumu, with some blocking roads and lighting bonfires in the lakeside western city. After dramatic scene outside the parliament Tuesday saw the partly ablaze complex ransacked by protesters, with police opening fire on them. Ruto made a surprise U-turn on the tax hikes. He declined to sign the increases into law and withdrew the bill on Wednesday. A Palestinian rights group has said that the Israel military has arrested 28 Palestinians in a series of raids across the occupied West Bank. The Palestinian Prisons Society Thursday said that the oversight raid, part of the Israel's increasingly violent assaults on the occupied territories, targeted the governorates of Jenin, Hebron, Bethlehem, Ramallah, and El Beira, Nablus, and Jerusalem. The group, which keeps a daily tally of arrests, said Israeli forces had doled out several beatings and made threats against detainees' families. Violence in the West Bank, already on the rise before Israel's current war on Gaza erupted in October, has since escalated with frequent army raids on Palestinian groups, rampages by Jewish settlers in Palestinian villages, and the deadly Palestinian street attacks. Reports said that the Israel military had dramatically increased its operations, conducting about 38 raids a day, with an uptick in the detentions. Home demolitions have gone up by 25% since last year. displacing more than 1,000 Palestinians. In Jenin, where 9 Palestinians were arrested, armed confrontations broke out in the city and its refugee camp in the early hours of Thursday. You're watching Foreign Desk on Benue Television. Let's take a quick break. Don't go away. Glad to have you back. Pakistan has accused the United States of attempting to interfere in its internal affairs, hours after the U.S. House of Representatives passed a resolution on Wednesday raising questions about credibility of the South Asian nation's general election in February. The resolution called for a full and independent investigation into alleged irregularities in the Pakistani election, which former Prime Minister Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf (PTI) party alleged was manipulated to deny its victory. Pakistan's tense response underscored the neggles and afflicts its relationship with the U.S., once its preeminent geopolitical partner, but it is likely to upset recent attempts to steady ties. Mumtaz Bullock, a spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, said on Wednesday that Pakistan believes in constructive dialogue and engagement, but such resolutions are neither constructive nor objective. Defense Minister Khwaja Asif also criticized the resolution and suggested that the U.S. needed to do more to ensure transparency in its own upcoming elections later this year. Russia has suffered multiple diplomatic and judicial blows during the past week over its war on Ukraine, despite President Vladimir Putin's high-profile visit to North Korea and Vietnam and Moscow's claim that it is funding a Eurasian security architecture that will replace the discredited Euro-Atlantic security arrangement. Putin signed a comprehensive strategic treaty with North Korea leader Kim Jong-un on June 19, incorporating that he said was a defensive alliance. South Korea's government condemned the agreements with National Security Advisor Chang Hong-yin, declared that Seoul would consider lifting a ban on army supplies directly to Ukraine. Until now, South Korea has only sold weapons to Ukraine's allies. Chang later added that the type of weapons supplied to Ukraine would depend on Russia's cooperation with North Korea. Putin said it would be a grave mistake if South Korea changed its policy of not supplying belligerents. Russia also suffered judicial embarrassment. The International Criminal Court at The Hague issued arrest warrants on Thursday for former Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and Chief of Military Staff Valery Gerasimov, saying that they are responsible for attack on Ukrainian electricity infrastructure. Bolivian Army chief was arrested on Wednesday after deploying soldiers and tanks of government buildings, which President Luis Arce called an attempt coup. The troop entered Plaza Morillo, leading to global condemnation. A tank attempted to breach the presidential palace door. Surrounded by soldiers and tanks, that dismissed Army Chief General Juan Jose Zuniga claimed that the armed forces aimed to restructure democracy. Later, Zuniga was captured and arrested while addressing reporters, as from a balcony, affirmed that no one can take away the democracy they have won, to hundreds of supporters. We'll take more news after this break. Stay with us. Glad to have you back on Foreign Desk. Do you know hospital doctors in England on Thursday began a 5-day strike a week before a general election in which the state of the public-funded National Health Service is a major issue. It follows nearly a dozen similar actions by doctors below the specialist consultant level over the last 18 months. The NHS is grappling with the massive backlog caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and worsened by the repeated doctor strikes, as well as delays in operations and starting cancer treatment. An increasingly dissatisfied public also face longer waits to see a doctor at their local surgery. A recent survey suggested that less than a quarter of Britons were satisfied with the NHS, an unprecedented level. The doctors have been asking for 35% per restoration as a starting position amid cost of living crisis. They have said they will call off the action if Conservative Prime Minister Rishi Sunak comes to the table with a credible commitment to increase their pay. The strike will run until Tuesday, 2 days before next Thursday's general election, which the main opposition Labour Party is expected to win. The governing Chinese Communist Party, CCP, has expelled former Defense Minister Li Shanguf, who was sacked last year after being missing, and his predecessor as part of an anti-corruption crackdown. The expulsion of Li and predecessor Wei Feng for serious violation of party discipline and the law was reported on Thursday. The purge coming at a time of increasing tension between China and the United States over the fate of Taiwan. Li was removed in October 2023 after only a few months in office following his disappearance from public view for almost 2 months. Reports has it that his case had been referred to military prosecutors, potentially setting up a trial that would lead him to getting life in prison. With that, we've come to the end of our bulletin this afternoon. Before we go, a recap of the top stories. Global Hunger Monitor has said over 750,000 people in Sudan at risk of starvation. Kenya police has fired tear gas at protesters after Ruto scrapped tax hikes. We also told you that Russia has suffered setback as Ukraine pressed for tough months on battlefield. Thanks for being part of Foreign Desk on Benue Television. I am Susan Ayo. Remain blessed.